Welcome to the first ever Ward 5 Rural Summit Workshop, which is part of the first Rural Summit in 15 years. Rural Summits were an innovation that came out of amalgamation that was supposed to happen every term of council. Why did they stop? I don't know. But what I can tell you is that moving the motion to bring it back was the very first action that I made as a councillor. That's something I'm proud of. That wasn't something I did alone. That seed was planted by several long-time constituents of West Carleton March, who I will mention shortly. I'm also proud that there will be 3 generations from my family today. My dad's in the back. My 21-month-old daughter will be here this afternoon for the afternoon session. She wasn't interested in coming until the mayor was going to be here. So. and on that note, I can tell you that we have a mayor who has been dedicated to making sure that this Rural Summit is a success since the day I moved that motion and was passed unanimously. He's not here right now. He will be coming this afternoon, and he does have eyes and ears in the room right now. John, do you want me to point you out? John White over there works for the mayor and focuses on rural issues and helps the rural councillors quite a bit. And I can't say enough about my rural counterparts, one of which is here right now, Councillor Brown, who we call Farmer Brown because he's actually a farmer. And my other mayor colleagues, Councillor Drews, who's the chair, Councillor Catherine Kitts, and Councillor Matt Luloff, and their dedication to making, I think, noticeable and meaningful differences for the people of rural Ottawa. This wasn't a huge topic during the campaign. I think honestly maybe 4 or 5 people raised the Rural Summit with me. 2 of them are here today. Ken Holmes and Shirley Dolan, can you stand up please? So these 2 have been working extremely hard for months, organizing this, consulting with Ward 5 residents, organizations, stakeholders, businesses. Their efforts have been amazing, and it's been an absolute pleasure to work along your side to accomplish this. So thank you very much, and maybe we can give those 2 a round of applause. I've always wanted to give a speech where people give a round of applause in the middle of it. Another person who I would like to acknowledge, and unfortunately for me is a really noticeable absence today, and I do believe was the very first person who ever talked to me about bringing back a Rural Summit, and that's Adele Muldoon, who wanted to be here today. But for those of you who have not heard the very sad news that Leo Muldoon passed away on Thursday, and I'd just like to take a moment to recognize that Leo was an amazing man in this community, an amazing farmer, an amazing father, husband, and just an awesome guy. One of the first doors I knocked on as a councillor was the Muldoons. If you want to have any chance of winning an election here, you go see Adele and Leo. And so I drove down the driveway, knocked on the door, about a month after I put my name on the ballot. And I didn't know Leo all that well, but I think it's safe to say he was a man of few words. And he came to the door, opened it. There was a screen door between us, and he just looked at me. And I said, "Do you know who I am?" I said, hello, Mr. Muldoon, do you know who I am and why I'm here? Again, didn't say anything. Just opened the door and walked into his house. So I took a step in, and I looked at him, and again, without saying anything, he just pointed to the couch. And so I still to this day don't know whether he knew who I was and why I was there, but he did just know that there was someone at his door who wanted to talk, and that seemed to be enough for him. I wasn't going to originally tell that story in my opening remarks today, but given the events of last week and the loss of an amazing member of our community who helped inspire bringing back the Rural Summit, I wanted to mention that. Another story, and I'm sorry this is the last one before we get started. So this is the last of the workshops of the leading up to the Rural Summit in the fall. The first one I got a chance to go to is Councillor Drews in Austin, and about halfway through the night, I walked over to fill up my coffee, chatting with a few other councillors and some staff that were taking part. And we were talking about how well things seem to be going and how people seem to appreciate the opportunity to come and talk about the issues that they were facing as a rural resident and some solutions to get around it. And someone else said, yeah, I thought there'd be a lot more anger. And there was a pause, and one of the staff who have been around for a long time in the City of Ottawa said, yeah, we haven't been to West Carleton yet. I understand that there are frustrations, and that's one of the reasons that we're here. And the fact that rural residents are consistently less satisfied with the services of the city as their urban and suburban residents of the city. So I'm hoping that we can channel that today in a positive way, talk about what we're facing, what the potential solutions could be, your ideas to get around those problems, what you would like to see. And I'm hoping that we can keep it as positive as possible, although frustrations are one of the reasons that we're here. There will be varying opinions at the table, and I want every single person here to feel respected and feel like they have the ability to raise what they want to raise in the way that they want to do it. I would like to acknowledge the presence of a few people here this morning. Councillor David Brown from Ward 21. Councillor Wilson-Lower will be coming, but Ottawa's a big place, and a few people are learning that this morning. And we've got Councillor Johnson from Pollard's Ward and Councillor Riley Brockington. So we've got some urban, suburban councillors joining us today, which I think is fantastic. The mayor will be here later. And we also have our MPP, Karen McCrimmon, here, so thank you very much for coming, Karen. Nice to see you. And I do believe that the very last mayor of West Carleton, Dwight Eastman, and the very first city councillor for West Carleton March will be coming at some point today. So I'm looking forward to interacting with all of you, and hope you get a chance to interact with them as well. So thank you for showing interest for being here today. Thank you to the city staff who are here. You can see some of them at the back. One of them has brought their son, I believe he's 16 years old. He's getting his volunteer hours in today. So the other thing that I want to say is that there's a lot of moving parts today, a lot of things going on. We've got stations all over the building. If at any point you're confused, don't know where to go, have any questions, maybe you're feeling that you haven't got the ability to express what you wanted to, flag me down, flag Lisa down, flag Corey down, flag one of these councillors down. They'll help you, or they'll bring you to me, and we'll make it happen. So let's make rural Ottawa a better place to live today. And I'm going to hand it over to Stefan to tell us about how that will work, and we will be getting started very soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. She's going to go to the next slide. Oh, I don't think we need this. The councillor again. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, councillor, for help organizing this. Thank you, everyone, that showing up on this beautiful day, beautiful Saturday. My name is Stefan Gallo. I'm a stakeholder engagement coordinator at City of Ottawa, and I'm responsible for the engagement on the Rural Summit. So I'm here. I'm responsible for listening to the community, to reaching out to you, and see what are the challenges that you're facing in rural Ottawa. So there was, like the councillor mentioned, there was two other rural summit, one in 2005, one in 2008. Like the councillor Kelly mentioned, it's been a while, but thanks to a motion that he brought forward early in council, he decided, you know what, in this term of council, we're going to have a rural summit. And we're happy to say that 2024 is the year that we're going to have the rural summit. So, just to give you an objective, the objective of the rural summits is to recommend improvements to City of Ottawa services for rural residents. So we want to look at the access to current services. We also want to explore future plans, short term, medium term, long terms. What are we looking at for rural Ottawa? We want to identify opportunities for the rural communities. And we want to highlight challenges and how we can address them. So just to give you an idea, Ottawa's pretty big, and like the councillor mentioned, we're covering a lot of ground. So all the rural wards, it's Ward 5 in Councillor Luloff, Ward 5 in Councillor Kelly, sorry, Ward 1 in Councillor Luloff, Ward 19 Councillor Kitts, Ward 20 Councillor DeRuz, and obviously Ward 21 for Councillor Brown. Like the councillor mentioned, this is the last workshop. We start early in April in Councillor Kitts' ward, and it's going all the way to today, so for our last workshop. So just to give you an idea of all the public engagement we're doing for this, for the Rural Summit. So we launched a survey. I don't know if everyone filled our survey on Engage Ottawa. It was launched on March 21st. We put the survey together thanks to the councillor's help and the resident working group, Ken and Shirley. Thank you so much for your help. The survey was to gather feedback from the community. And the survey also helped us identify some of the teams that you're going to see today. And I'm happy to say we have over 1,000 responses to the survey, which is amazing. You think about it's only been out for 2 months and it's only 1,000 responses, which is great. Thank you very much to everyone that answered the survey. And if you haven't already, please go on Engage Ottawa Rural Summit. We're doing a workshop, always in person. That was one thing that the councillors brought forward and said, we need to do this in person. We need to go meet residents. So that's why we're here today. We think it's important to have those one-on-one conversations with you and to gather your feedback. And we're also doing some community outreach. We went to Councillor Blue's ward the other week where we just set up a tent, a table, talked to residents. They were just there. It was a fair that they had, and we just showed up and we talked to residents saying, what are the challenges that you're facing? What are the ideas that you would like to see? Or what would you like the city to do to help you? So that was, so if you have any idea of, or if you would like to invite us to an event that's happening in the community, let us know at ruralsummit@ottawa.ca. And all of this is going to lead to the Rural Summit that's going to happen in November. The purpose of the Rural Summit is going to present what we heard and recommend improvements to the provision to the City of Ottawa services to residents and communities of rural Ottawa. We don't have a date yet, but we're going to set a date probably in the coming weeks. So please visit the Engage Ottawa page or follow the councillor with his newsletter. I'm sure he's going to let you know when the Rural Summit is going to happen, but we should have a date pretty soon. So just go quickly with the timeline. So we did all the workshops starting in April, ending today. We're doing some community outreach from May to September. And like I mentioned, all of this is going to lead to the Rural Summit that's going to happen in November. And we're going to report back to committee and council in Q4 2024. All right, now for the reason why we're here this morning. So we're here to listen to you. Just like the councillor mentioned, this is a listening exercise. We have a lot of city staff that are here for you today. They're not here to present you a project. They're not here to present you something that's going to be happening. They're here to listen to you. So that's the goal of this session this morning. We're here to listen to you. We're also here if you have any questions. Sometimes don't be afraid, ask city staff. You might not have the answer, because sometimes city covers a lot of service area, a lot of department, but we'll write it down and we can follow up with you. Like the councillor mentioned, it's an open discussion, friendly environment. Just make sure that you let everyone speak at the table. You're going to see we're a lot of people. You might be 10, 15 people at one table. So let's give a chance to everyone to speak. So we're just going to go over the teams quickly. So we have transportation, agriculture, development and zoning, consultation and communication, community services, health and safety, and environment. And we also set up another table. So if you have a team or something that you want to mention that you feel doesn't fit in any of the seven teams, there's another table that you can set where I always say you can say whatever you want at that table. It's like a free for all. So if you feel like, oh, you know what the topic I want to bring up doesn't fit in any of the categories, go to the other table. Or one thing, you'll see we have 20 minutes per table. And then after you're going to be asked to switch. Let's just say you're at the environment table and you have more to say about the environment after 20 minutes. Please change and come to the other table. This way you can still talk about drainage, ditches, but if you have more to say, you can go to the other table. Okay, for the format. So for the first session, we're going to have 20 minutes per session. We're going to have 4 sessions. So the first session, you're going to choose a table that fits your interests or concerns. So for the first one, each each table discussion will last 20 minutes. After 20 minutes, you can stay at that table, or I would recommend to change table, to go to another team. So if you were at the transportation for the first one, you can decide, get up, and go to the health and safety one. The second session is going to have another 20 minutes. After the 2 sessions of 20 minutes, we're going to have a 20-minute break. So there's amazing coffee, some treats, dessert, muffin. Please go to the washroom. For everyone to know, the washroom is when you get out on the left, and then on the left again, and right. Women's on the right side, the men's are on the left side. So after the 20-minute break, we're just going to repeat 2 sessions, 20 minutes, and try to go to different teams as well. And at the end, we're all going to come back to this room, and we're going to have closing remarks. So before I go to the questions, just want to make sure that everyone knows. So in this big room, we're going to have the transportation table, the health and safety table, and the development and zoning. Community services is in the room behind the coffee. So you see there's a door. So you can go, and community services can go from parks and recs to youth services, to adult services, to social services. So that room is really behind the coffee. You open the door and you go in there. Consultation and communication is just when you exit to your left. The environment table is at the entrance on the right side. The agriculture table, you have to go in the councillor's office. Well, it's his boardroom and his office as well. He's been kind enough to share with us his office. And for the other topic, it's going to be in the kitchen, so right here. Does anyone have any questions?
Can you just repeat that?
Yes, no, absolutely.
Which one is?
So in this room, you're going to have transportation,
Yes.
health and safety. So we're talking traffic calming, police. So anything that fits that topics. Development and zoning is going to be in this room. Community services in the room behind the coffee. So you exit, there's a door on the left. Communication and consultation is right on the left right there. In the lobby, sorry, thank you, Councillor. Agriculture is in the Councillor's boardroom, Councillor's office. And other topics is in the kitchen, right here. I think that door's locked, yeah. So please go, use that door or use the Councillor's office door. You have any more questions? Okay, so we're going to start in like 2 minutes because we have to rearrange the room so that we can fit all the tables. One thing I want to mention before we start, I want to thank all the city staff that are here today. They're coming here on a Saturday because they want to listen to you. They're here because they care about our rural community. So I want to thank every single city staff that are here this morning. Thank you to everyone here. Thank you, Council, for having us. We're happy to be here. And let's get started.
Okay, before that, I'd like to introduce you to someone very important who's been extremely supportive of the Rural Summit and all that that entails. Mayor Mark Sutcliffe, thank you very much for coming out today.
So first of all, I want to say a big thank you to Clark, who's been doing a great job as your councillor for the last 18 months and has been a really a strong presence on City Council and has worked with me on a number of really important files. But most of all, has really taken a leadership role on this Rural Summit this year. So, Clark, thank you for everything you've done. Really very early on in our mandate, Clark and I started talking about the Rural Summit and how important it was to both of us. And I made it one of my biggest priorities for this term of council was to deliver the first Rural Summit in more than 15 years in Ottawa. And so I'm really excited about the fact that we're doing it this year. It's finally happening. A lot of work has gone into this, so I want to thank all the people who put their hands up and have been part of the process. There's been some great community leadership throughout the rural parts of Ottawa. I've been to 3 or 4 of these meetings in other parts of the rural parts of Ottawa in the last few months. And the turnout's been great, and the participation and engagement has been fantastic. We've heard lots of great ideas and input and feedback. And I say all the time, so first of all, the rural parts of Ottawa are very special to me, very important to me. I think they're what makes Ottawa very special and unique among Canadian cities. Most cities in Canada are not as large as Ottawa. I always point out that a huge portion of Ottawa is the rural component. So it's a big part of our city and a vitally important part of our city. The agricultural economy is really important to our city. And I've known this going back many years to my time as a radio host on CFRA. We had a very deep connection with the rural community and the agricultural community. So it's always been important to me. My in-laws are actually constituents here of Clark's. They live in Kinburn, so I've spent a lot of time here. My kids have spent a lot of time here with their grandparents. So it's a really important part of the community for me. And I have said many, many times since I first became a candidate for mayor, and even as mayor, and I sometimes get in trouble for saying it, but I have said over and over again, I don't want people who live in rural communities to feel like downtown people are making decisions that impact their lives and change their rural way of life. We want rural decisions to be made with full participation of rural residents, full consultation, and the highest level of engagement possible. So that's what the summit is all about. We want to continue to reflect the unique and distinct character of rural communities in all of the decisions we make at City Hall. We never want to overlook that, and I know at times you felt overlooked and ignored, and we don't want that to happen going forward. And that's why this summit is so important. So thank you for participating. And I want you to know that we are going to be watching this process very, very closely. We've made other changes at City Hall in the last 18 months to strengthen the Agriculture and Rural Affairs Committee, make sure that more things are going through that committee as opposed to just the Planning Committee or the Environment Committee or other committees. We've realigned a team that looks after these issues at City Hall and strengthened that team. So there's a lot that's happening behind the scenes. And when this summit happens, we're looking forward to taking away some of the biggest lessons and suggestions and ideas and implementing them as soon as possible. So thank you again for participating, and I want you to know this is really important to me as well as to Clark and to our colleagues on council. It's great to have Kathy here as well, Kathy Curry, who's neighboring city councillor and came out to hear what people had to say today. So thank you again for your participation.
Hi everyone, thanks for stopping by the Community Services Table. A lot of great discussion. Some of the themes that were brought up, communication of existing programs within the community. How do we connect those people to those programs that are already existing? How do we get more knowledge of those throughout the community? Diversity of recreation programs was a big theme as well. So not just playing cards 7 days a week, other opportunities to participate in recreation programs. And how to support the most vulnerable in our community, including transportation, better access to services, and better system navigation. And just getting the right resources to the people who need the most in the community. Thanks.
Thank you, Ethan. We're going to go transportation and public work. So,
Okay. Hello, my name is Jamie Granger. I work with Public Works. The top few things that we've talked about, road maintenance, renewal, to take more input into when we go to redesign roads, involve other stakeholders, cyclists, make a network for them. We also touched on drainage of ditches. We touched on stormwater taps and how that's going to impact residents. A lot of people are not really aware how that's going to affect them. And another thing, transportation, possibly OC Transpo services to some of the communities, such as Dunrobin, Carp, Fitzroy Harbor. How can we do a better job of providing a service to them that isn't there yet? Those are the main things.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks.
Louis, you were at Health and Safety?
Health and Safety, yes. My name is Louis. I work with the traffic investigations team at the City of Ottawa, so we deal with all the traffic calming issues that we get from you. At the Health and Safety table, we had a few items that we discussed, a few good comments, thank you again. One of them was emergency preparedness and having a strategy or a plan in place at communities to deal with emergencies like forest fires. The other one was lack of cycling facilities and having more cycling facilities within the community. The third one was the facilitation of the implementation of manure drag lines under roadway structures and just having sort of easier processes in place, as well as sort of the other key item was establishing appropriate speed limits within the community.
Thank you, Louis.
Thank you.
Erica, you want to go?
When I was at the development and zoning table, planning with the rural group, and so what we really talked about today were discussions on the protection for agricultural land, but also how we allow for the severance process to be a smoother process, to be one that allows for that certain amount of severances to happen for agricultural properties, those surplus farm dwellings. Something else that was really important to the discussion today was water quality and the availability of drinking water, but also what sorts of restrictions limit severances and where can we look at treatment options when it comes to water quality in particular. Finally, there was also some discussion related around commercial revitalization, particularly in some of our villages where we're seeing some empty commercial buildings, and how can we go about bringing back in some of those commercial resources to the villages. Thank you.
Thank you, Erica. Robin?
Hi, I'm Robin Gandelan. I'm an urban planner at the city, and I was at the agricultural table. I was just a little quiet this afternoon. That's okay. It was very busy this morning because farmers are the type to get up early and get things done early. They like to enjoy their afternoons like folks should be very soon. There are three big things that really came up this morning. First was really talking about finding that rural voice and making sure that people are heard. There was much talked about like what happens with the client service center in a rural area. There was historically this was a very active building. In fact, Clark, you had a list of folks I'll just go over very quickly. This building only has 4 regular staff in the client service area, where it used to have people involved not only in client services but also in development review, public works, fire services, public health, solid waste, transportation maintenance, and other things. So that diversity of staff is really what made this area function. And there was sort of a strong sense that, it's very difficult to get downtown, to get down to Constellation, and to be heard within your voice. And it is, and the people that do come out, or the people that people do deal with out of City Hall may not have a really good set of experience related to the conditions of what the agricultural area really is. I work at City Hall. I don't get the chance to come out to God's country as much as I would like to, but here I am. And having more people here more often in a full service client service center is going to help everybody move business a lot faster through agriculture. We also talked about the preservation of agricultural land. It's not broadly known that in Ontario we lose 319 acres of prime agricultural land every day. We are creating 0 acres in Ontario. So every little bit of prime agricultural land is very vital. And so the preservation and conservation of and maintenance of agriculture and agricultural land is very important, and we really need to make sure at City Hall that we're focusing on that. There was also, relating to that, it's not easy, the agricultural community is a complicated thing to be, it's a very complicated thing to be a farmer. And it is not easy to start out as a farmer. And having a rural affairs office that has been really in touch and is able to help people navigate the process of grants and of finding out how to get onto those programs and things like that is really hard. We only have a single person in the entirety of 1 million people working on rural affairs right now, and we should probably have more if we did historically. I understand that when we were trying to meet that challenge, but it's something that we're going to take with us to the summit in the fall. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. For the environment table,
I'm Corey, I'm Assistant to Councillor Kelly. We were at the environment table, and much like the transportation table and the zoning table, we heard about water. We heard about protecting the quality of water sources for private wells and what we might possibly be able to do with that. We heard about the potential battery energy storage system at the corner of Homesteaders and Goleta, and how that process is moving forward and concerns about that. We also heard about active cycling networks as well, potentially leveraging the rail line, yes, the rail line as a future active cycling network and connecting it to other places in the city. And yes, we heard about potentially finding some sort of areas in the ward that people can enjoy like a dark skies, maybe putting in some rules to ensure that there's a dark sky area in the ward somewhere. And yeah, that's what we heard about.
so we're going to go to the environment first, Dave.
Thank you very much, Stefan. So I'm not at 4 of them actually, in no particular order. So the first one come up was compensation and incentives for rural property owners for conservation of forests, wetlands, natural heritage features on their properties, particularly where the city has restrictions under the official plan and zoning on what can be done on the property. There was feeling that rural property owners should be compensated for the environmental services that are provided and enjoyed by everybody. There's lots of concern about drinking water and private wells, potential impacts on private wells, development was mentioned, quarries were mentioned, the ongoing study of municipal servicing for the village of Carp was mentioned. Naturally, the stormwater rate review came up. That seems to be on a lot of people's minds right now because we've got some upcoming meetings. People want more information on how that would apply to rural properties, how it would be implemented, what it would mean for people's assessments and rates. And there was concern, we've heard this at other meetings, is why are we being charged for stormwater maintenance when ditch maintenance is so bad. And then some discussion about renewable energy, both pros and cons, but I think everybody talking about potential environmental impacts and the decision-making process and properly engaging with the rural community on that decision-making process.
Thank you, Nate. Andrew, you're up. Andrew's at Communication and Conservation Table.
Thank you very much. Thank you to everybody who stopped by to share your insights, your experiences, and perspectives. There was a lot we discussed, so I'm hesitant to summarize on the top 3, but I'm going to give it my best shot. But I do know that many of you raised a number of different concerns and perspectives. So do know that those are captured in the sheet. I wrote them down, and they'll be shared with Stefan and the team. But I wrote them on my hand, so that way I don't forget it. I saw everybody writing on or typing on their laptops and their phones. And I was like, that was probably a better idea than this. But alas, here we are. Yeah. So the 3 that I kind of noticed that stood out in our discussions, the first one was a need for more dedicated, rural communications kind of process or strategy, right? The flow of information works differently more in rural areas. So an actual dedicated kind of process looking at how many of you receive information finding a way of developing a system that works for that. So one of the things we talked about was like dedicated rural communicators. So actually people in the community that know how information kind of flows here, know who to talk to, where to put information, and how to get that information to all of you. So that came up a lot as a recurring kind of theme throughout the discussions. The next one, building on that, is kind of like taking the service centers or essentially support, which is often sitting in, you know, a building that might not be fully accessible for many of you because your travel distances is a lot farther than, say, the urban areas, and introducing things like more mobile support. So being able to go to communities a little bit closer to provide that kind of assistance when it comes to getting permits or answering questions or getting those services that you would traditionally have to travel really far to get. So mobile support was kind of one of the common themes. And then the last one was just sharing learnings. So there's a ton of research, a ton of work, a ton of progress happening, even within Ottawa as a region, but also across the province, across the country, across the globe, of people who are coming together to work on addressing specific challenges that affect the rural community, and the ability to tap into those people and those resources and learn from them, and just figure out, okay, how did you solve this issue in your area, whether it's in Manitoba or BC or Nova Scotia or down in the southern states or somewhere in Europe, anything like that. Just being able to find who's been working on those, learn from each other, and figure out ways of addressing those similar challenges that the rural community here in Ottawa is facing. So those are kind of the big three, which was like rural communicators, a dedicated communication staff, mobile support, going to where you are, going to your communities to be able to support you, and then being able to share learnings with each other to address these specific rural challenges. So thank you for everybody who participated.
Thank you, Andrew. It's a good thing I didn't ask for top 10. You didn't have enough room in your hand there. Jared, are you good? Or are you a little surprised that I'm asking you to speak? Oh, okay. So you want to come to the front as well?
Yeah,
Okay.
we split into two sub-tables because there was so many people to talk to. So he handled maintenance, I handled where the roadway infrastructure goes. So I'll just speak to one or two of kind of the network planning issues that were raised. One of them was about like non-passenger vehicle modes of transportation. There was a lot of concerns raised about how people without access to a car or who can't drive anymore are going to get to their doctor's appointments, how they're going to get to downtown. And you know, there were a lot of good comments raised about maybe like an express bus between here and downtown, or you know, on-demand transit, or some sort of expansion of paratransit or community organizations like the WOCRC. There's a lot of emphasis on getting people both ways, not just to the downtown, but getting those personal support workers and people who are care workers into the rural community as well. Figuring out ways to kind of make the bus service a little more rational. I heard a lot of questions about why are we running the bus on Wednesdays and not the weekends? You know, how do we accommodate people who need it like students? There were also a lot of concerns raised about active transportation on the roadway, so issues with cyclists on roads potentially being in danger due to cars passing by them. So maybe comments about you know, providing a paved shoulder for them to ride or walk on, and you know,
Thank you. My name is James Granger. I'm here to represent Public Works. We cover roads, forestry, parks, solid waste. The main issues that were discussed, the big one was drainage, ditch drainage. We spoke about resurfacing and reconstruction of roads, how we can maybe put in some engineering things to address drainage, flooding. There was some talk about infrastructure in the floodplains. How can we do a better job or react to possible flooding again, and when we try and incorporate that in the renewal strategy, how we do our maintenance, how it's communicated to us, how we do it, how do we follow up with our clients afterwards, and yeah, the state of repair.
You didn't hear what we're
What we are and aren't doing, that was brought up, and how can we do a better job with the resources we have? Anyway, that's the main things.
Yeah, inspection.
Thank you, gentlemen. And like I said, it's not, I'm not just asking for a small resume, we're not saying everything, just, it's not because I didn't say it, it's not on your list. Ethan?
Thanks everyone. So my name is Ethan with Community and Social Services. I did the Community Services table. Great discussion. Thanks everyone for chipping in. A couple of themes that we discussed. Communications of existing programs within the city. So the city and the community offers a lot of programs. How do I find out about those programs that are existing? How do we communicate them to the greater public in the rural area? The second one was access and transportation. So if those services are available, how do we access them? How do we get transportation that's equitable and provide those services for all age groups and those who are vulnerable within our community? And then inequality of programs within the rural community itself. So a lack of funding or a lack of available programs for those who are vulnerable within our community. And the last one, system navigation. So who do I talk to about getting the right answers? Who do I talk to about getting access, that sort of thing. So those are the things that came up. Thanks.
Thank you. We're now going to go to the health and safety table.
Strong moving your table inside the court.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Nice.
Folks, again, Ken Wright, I was partnered with Andrew today. Andrew and I have been working quite some time together in the neighborhood police and director, and on behalf of the Ottawa Police Service, we thank you for inviting us out, Councillor. Always great to work with you, and really appreciate your support. Folks, it was loud and clear, the themes for the police, and I will say, for the vast majority, it was not a surprise. For those that are calling the police, and for hopefully one of the main takeaways in all of the tables was, at least selfishly from our perspective, is it's extremely important to call and report folks. It really is, particularly in today's policing environment, in terms of us needing to be in the right places at the right time, because the data and the stats tell us. So please keep reporting. But the themes were very obvious for any speeding. Dangerous driving, erratic driving, sort of stunt driving, racing, kind of wrapped up into one, impaired driving. And there were others, those were sort of the top three for me. And there were others that I definitely made note that we are doing a lot of the right things, but we're not doing all of the right things, and we're missing some things. So that's what I really love about these types of setups that the councillors are creating. We hear from the sort of the horse's mouth, if you will, what we've been reading about and responding to, and sometimes we read stuff that we don't get to see because it is not reported, but it is just as critically important as it receives service and attention. So I've taken a bunch of notes. Another thing that come up actually, and one of my notes is the cyclist one, which kind of threw me back. There's cyclists out there again. I'm a rural guy as well. I'm way south, and usually it's on the weekends you see a group of cyclists, and they piss me off too. They take off. I'll just be honest. They take up a big piece of the road, but it's kind of done and over with. That doesn't seem to be the case here in Ward 5. I'm assuming it's probably an issue in other words, including mine, that I just wasn't aware of. But I am nowadays. So the good thing is that Andrew and I work with mostly men and women that are on bicycles, cyclists, in a neighborhood perspective. So I've got some ideas around how we can help at least mitigate or enforce that piece. So again, I want to thank everyone for having me on our place out today. The things were, I expected them, but I definitely got some that I wasn't expecting, and I'll take them away. Thank you.
Thank you. Robin, you're up. You want me to hold it?
Hi, my name is Robin Van Lin. I had the pleasure of taking care of the agricultural room with Shirley Olin. She was helping me there. We have a few themes that sort of came up. It was a really interesting group. We had 5 sessions that kind of hit the same mark. We had some people that stuck around for the discussions. It was super interesting because we had not only a range of different types of farmers coming in, but we also had other rural residents and people that eat food, which is from. The issues that we came up with, of course, were some things were very important. For instance, loss of agricultural land is really, really a significant thing. thing. Ontario, or was it Ontario, Canada loses 300 acres of prime agricultural land every day.
319.
And we are creating 0. So obviously that's not sustainable way to continue, and it's very important to understand that agricultural protection is something that the city needs to be on top of. We also talked about how the city maintains its lands. For instance, ditches, and we make Kyler spray those ditches, and the things that we spray, the things that the city do really have an impact on other things. We talked specifically about the impact on bird and bee populations and the operations that can be very highly impacted by the operations, and we need to make sure that the city does their appropriate maintenance at the right times. We also need to make sure that we maintain the roads in the rural area in a suitable way that the agricultural people can move from one place to another. You don't have to wait 6 days for your lane to be cleared, or your road to be cleared. You can clear your lane the first day if you're a farmer. So those things are important as well. One of the things that really caught my eye, I stole this off your desk, was that the lack of services in the client services centers now. So there is maybe 4 or 5 employees here at the client service centers for all of West Carleton. The other client service centers we have in the rural area, in the rural wards, are very similar. They're not very well staffed. But I will read to you what there used to be here. We used to have people involved in development applications, public works, fire services, not only the council's office, but the public health people, solid waste management, forestry bylaw, traffic, tile drainage, fence viewers, and
I think the rest are outside agencies.
yeah, so it's an additional agency. So this was a one-stop operation that we had here. It's not that way anymore. I'm not sure precisely why. It was my decision, but there's these lack of services have a huge impact on the viability of agriculture and living in the rural area, and it's something that we really need to deal with. And I think that was one of the biggest takeaways that I got out of that today. And it's important to have these people available because farming and agriculture are very diverse operations, and also the diverse set of skills, and being able to access people who are knowledgeable about not only how operations work, but how it's important to continue. And
right now? Okay.
That's almost the book, but basically saying that we need to have a fully serviced client service center. That's really important. That's going to really help the rural area and the agricultural industry probably most of all.
Thank you. Thank you, Robin. Ian, Erica, and I'll try to change that.
My name is Erica Ogden. I am a planner in the rural area for development review. So I was at the development and zoning table today, and we heard some really great discussion about how what we're doing at the city is looking to impact and what it does for the rural area. So some of the key themes we heard, very similar to what Robin was mentioning, is protecting our agricultural areas and how what we're doing to maintain farmland in our rural areas and how that intertwines with development, really looking at where that limit is to the urban boundary development coming in and how we maintain rural character in our villages and communities. A second area we really heard a lot of input on was on staffing specific to the rural areas. We talked a lot about the Rural Affairs Office and its role and how we can make sure that in our aspects of development review, but also zoning, we are making sure we have staff who have that rural perspective to what they do in their day-to-day job. So that kind of brought us into the third theme we heard from was that there's not a one-size-fits-all approach when it comes to development in the city. So we heard a lot about how zones that are used in the urban area just don't apply to the situations in the rural area. So we need to see that there's specific rules and regulations that come up that are just unique to the rural area and need to be reflected in how the city addresses development and zoning. Thanks everyone for your input.
Consultation and communication table. Had a lot of great discussion. We heard about the City of Ottawa website, ottawa.ca, how sometimes it's not user friendly It's hard sometimes to find information on this. I see a gentleman that agrees with me here. So, how they're missing the org chart. It used to have to be able to find every city employee on the city website. It's not there anymore. The residents would like to see us back. We talked about simplifying sometimes the word. Every time the city sometimes does consultations, sometimes we're using a lot of complicated words. Sometimes staff that are writing this, they're well knowledge, they know their topics, but sometimes the residents that don't have all the information about this, sometimes we should use simpler word. One other thing that we talked about is all the engagement that we're finding on Engage Ottawa. Sometimes every engagement is different. Sometimes the survey is only going to have one question, and it's not going to be super precise. There's nothing's. Every survey is different, every engagement is different, because as you know, every department is organizing their own consultation on Engage Ottawa. So there was discussion maybe having a consultation office where every department could go there and just say, I want to do consultation on public works or on road, and the office of consultation would be responsible for organizing. So this way, every consultation that would be organized by the city would be similar, would have the same format, would use the same wording, and more in person. Sometimes, as we saw this afternoon, it's great to have those face-to-face conversations with city staff. They're here, we can expand. Sometimes it's not as easy to do when we're doing consultation online, on Zoom, just with surveys, so a mix of a lot of public engagement is always great. And that's, before I wrap, I give it to the Councillor Kelly for closing remark. I just want to say a big thank you to city staff that showed up today to help me for this workshop. I've been to 6 workshops, I've organized 6 Rural Summit workshops. And I have to say, if city staff's not there, it's just me alone. It's not worth it's just going to be me alone, just listening to you. It's not helping. So a big round of applause for all our city staff. Without them, it wouldn't be possible. So I'll now pass it on to Councillor Kelly.
Thank you, Stefan. You've been a star since, actually, he was just thrown into this. He wasn't in charge of doing this at the beginning, but was literally just thrown into this process. And I really appreciate his availability, and he's been out here a number of times to check out the room. And so, some parting words. The night before, when you put your head on the pillow the night before an event that you've been organizing for many months, a lot of things start going through your head. Who's going to show up? Are people going to yell at me? Are they going to be happy? Is this going to go well? All of those things. And so I didn't get a ton of sleep last night, but honestly, I don't think I could be more happy with how today went. Thank you to the staff for being here. Thank you to the mayor, my council colleagues, including Councillor Curry, Councillor Lowe, Councillor Brown, Councillor Johnson, Councillor Brockington. I don't think we've seen a Rural Summit workshop with more councillors come out. So I think that's a really good sign for moving forward and what's going to come out of this Rural Summit. And as I said to the first group, I understand that there are people who are pessimistic, that they've done this before, that nothing's changed. And I see it myself, the reports and studies that often get done and put on a shelf to collect dust for the next 15 years. And I know that the mayor feels the same way. We want to make this a worthwhile process. We want to make this meaningful. We want noticeable changes to come as a result. And I'm committed to doing what I can to make sure that happens. We've got a mayor who's committed to doing that, and it looks like we've got some council colleagues who are also interested in making that happen. And some of the comments that I've heard from staff today in between these rounds were extremely encouraging to me. So I think that's where I'll leave it for now. Thank you very much so I thanked everybody, and I want to thank you for coming, because that's the most important. It's all about hearing from you guys today, and we can spend months organizing an event, but if no one shows up to give us feedback, then we've not accomplished very much. So thank you to all of you for being here. Enjoy the rest of the beautiful day. Make your way up to Don Robin tomorrow for some pancakes if you can. And is that a hand up for a question? Okay.
If we have friends or ourselves who think of things
Good question. Thank you very much for asking that. This is not the end of the consultation. So Stefan and his team are going to be continuing to engage with residents. We still have an opportunity to send in the survey. You can pick up a paper copy of that survey before you leave. We've got envelopes that are already addressed and paid for, so you can plop that in the mail. We do. We do. You can call my office, email my office, visit the Ward 5 Rural Summit Workshop website, which I don't know off by heart, but it's on that sheet right there that Shirley has. But again, if there's any questions, concerns, if you want more opportunities, we will provide that for you. You can always come into my office, we can sit down and have a coffee, you can draft me an email. I will make sure that gets captured and considered when we wrap this all up. I tend to just drink coffee most of the time. The only reason I'm drinking water today is because Stefan brought it.
Thank you, everyone.